there hasn't been a lot of rap records about dealing with getting old because rap isn't that old. So I think I kind of wanted to like figure out how to make rap music for older people. So I think a lot of this stuff is that like I think there's nothing to me that's more distasteful than like older people trying to cater to like 16-year-olds. And I never wanted to be that dude. I would rather stop rapping than be that dude.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
I'm 29 now, so as I get closer and closer to my 30s, mortality, the future outlook of society, and my fading youth are consistently ideas that are occupying my mind. So art that speaks to these topics in a thoughtful and insightful way have been especially appreciated as of late. But unlike other genres out there, rap is still quite young. So there isn't necessarily a giant amount of artists out there who are even old enough to provide such an aged perspective. And among those who are both financially capable as well as culturally relevant enough, are comprised of the likes of Jay-Z, of a Nas, whose primary wisdom seems to be mostly focused on wealth building and respectability politics. Now, it's not like I don't like any of the music these guys have put out at these older ages. I'm one who actually likes 444, but not really because of the wealth building business talk, and more so because Jay-Z was actually quite emotionally vulnerable by his standards. But anyways, all that's to say is that I've been looking for this kind of content, looking for this kind of perspective, and that's why this album we'll be spotlighting in today's episode, Reverberations of a Dead Man's Ego, is such a breath of fresh air. The mature perspectives we get from Alaska on this album are thoughtful, provocative, and above all, remarkably honest, even if I don't necessarily fully align with what he's saying or fully understand it. I respect it, and I'm listening, and I'm engaged. And then they are accompanied by some of the best production we've heard from producer Steel Tip Dove to date. So listen on to learn more about the makings of this new album, the generational divide between Gen X and Gen Z, maturing with age, a sober outlook on the future of our society, and much, much more. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Alaska, Steel Tip Dev, how are you guys doing today?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Good, man. Thank you.
I'm great.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Dove. Or belated birthday.
Thank you.
A birthday that I found out happened yesterday, like 2 seconds ago, but you know.
You didn't get the
Yeah.
invite to the party?
Oh yeah, did you guys had a listening party recently, right? Was that last week?
That was last week, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was separate. That was last week. Yeah.
How did that go?
It was cool. It was a really cruddy weather night, so it was a bit of a smaller turnout, but
Mm-hmm.
still fun. We had some friends come out, got to hear the music playing in like a loud environment and
Yeah.
hear like how it really sounded through a nice system, which was really cool. What do you think, Al?
I think I'm always extremely nervous on my vinyl, mixing and mastering, and it sounded really good, so I was pleased.
Oh, that's sweet.
And yeah, it was downpouring. It was crazy. It would pour really hard for 10 minutes, then stop, then 10 minutes later start again. So nobody was like going out.
Yeah, that's the kind of rain that scares people. It's not just like a constant. It's like, okay, this is torrential, and then yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, and the
But it was
newscasts
fun.
were like, it's gonna be the worst rain ever. Don't leave your
Yeah.
house.
So your Jets, the season's starting. How do you think RFK Jr. VP finalists will look this year?
I mean, I think they might not win the election, but I'm more concerned about making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Who the hell knows? I'm a Jets fan, so I have that line. I think I might not see the Jets win a Super Bowl before I die. So,
I'm confused.
but
What's
I'm
RFK
excited.
have to do with it?
Oh, that's a
Oh,
great question.
yeah.
So, you do know Aaron Rodgers, right? The quarterback?
Well, yeah, I know that he's a quarterback. I know and we can, if this is wrong, forgive me. He went crazy, right? But I don't like he
Yeah.
did he go
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah.
Did he murder somebody? Is he
No,
No.
no.
that's somebody else. Again, I'm very,
No.
Yeah.
You
very
can do
not
a lot
familiar,
in
but
the NFL. I think murder will get you probably suspended or at least a hefty fine, but
Yeah.
no.
At the very
But
least, they're gonna let you play through the trial.
yeah,
so he
yeah.
Yeah.
was
After
more
that,
just
no.
a conspiracy. Is he a conspiracy
Yes,
theorist sort of
yeah.
guy? Okay, okay,
You
Yeah.
okay.
know what's
Yeah, yeah,
funny? I
yeah.
actually saw one of those like loud debate yelly shows, but I do like it. First things first, I think it's one of the few good ones.
Mhm.
They had an author who wrote like this biography about Rodgers that just dropped or is about to. And yeah, he basically they were asking about like what do you think changed? Because Rodgers was actually a guy who was one of the few, if not only, I think he was the only white quarterback who said anything about the Kaepernick thing in support
Yeah.
of him to be like, this isn't about the troops. Stop making it about that. You guys know what you're doing. Stop blackballing him, whatever.
Yeah.
He went from that in like 2016 to where he's at now, and he was just like, yeah, it was COVID. It seems like what happened with COVID, like a lot of people, just broke his brain a bit, and he kind of
Yeah.
went down some weird paths. And yeah, RFK Jr. is like a friend of his, and he was being floated as like a VP candidate for him.
Yeah. And they're both
Sorry,
anti-vax.
so
So
RFK was saying maybe I'll get Aaron Rodgers as
Yeah.
my vice president. Oh, that was
Yes.
yeah.
so funny. I'm glad he
Yes.
Yeah.
didn't because they probably would have fucking won.
Oh yeah.
After that bear meat thing, who knows? Um,
Yeah, I do. They would have won.
fair. Yeah. He would have out crazy everyone. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think I still don't think we've reckoned with like the damage that COVID has done to society and to people's minds and how they interact.
It's
Like we're
still
not
on
gonna
on on
understand it for
every
like 10 years.
level.
Yeah.
Even for people whose brain chemistry didn't change, like everyone's psychology has changed. Everyone's everything has changed. So like you need 20 more years to figure out what are
Yeah.
the actual consequences. Like,
Yeah, it's done a lot of good for like internet humor. It's done a lot
Yeah.
of bad for general else. There's whole genres of like comments. Like if any kind of like right winger person talks about some injury, the vaxxed question is is just like put there because it was
so
just
funny.
always thrown around. It's so funny. Anyways, back to you guys, back to the music. Very curious to start off with just how this connection first began. Like how did you guys first interact and the thought of music began?
I mean, I think we had been talking about it for a while before it actually happened.
Well, but we have to be talking about dynamics now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
before
yeah,
just
yeah.
generally even meeting, like how
Yeah.
did that relationship first start?
I want
Yeah.
to say Zilla, or was it not Zilla?
No, I think it might. I mean, I feel like we met each other before, but the first time we really did anything together was with Harvey and Darko.
That's crazy. You killed that shit. Oh my God. I love. Wait, so how did that happen?
That happened because Harvey lived in my neighborhood and I ran into
That's
him.
so
There was
crazy.
like this Italian deli called Brancaccios in our
Yeah,
neighborhood that
and
does dope
legendary.
sandwiches, like dope food, and they do like prepared Thanksgiving dinners.
Hmm.
So I was picking up my dinner and I was talking with Joe, who's the guy that owns it. And like we were talking hip hop, and he was like, "This guy Harvey's a rapper." So I was bringing all the stuff to my car, and I was like, let me go talk to this dude. I was like, I don't, at my age and like my lifestyle, I don't get to meet many random rappers in my neighborhood. So I just
Yeah.
started talking with him, and we became friendly. We went out and got drinks a couple times, and he was like, "We're recording at Dove's place." I was like, "All right, I'll come through." And that's kind of just how that happened. And even after that, it took like at least a year before we finally did something. That's how we originally, I think that's like the first time we ever worked. And then
Okay.
Dub sent me a pack, and I think I was working on stuff with Jason Griff at the time. And maybe like a year later, I was like, "Send me some beats again," and we just started working from there. Like I have a place in upstate New York, so my wife was up there for the whole summer. My kid was at summer camp, and I was traveling back and forth for work. So
Hmm.
like a couple every week I was in the city for like 2 or 3 nights, and I would just go over to Dove's house and we would just start recording, and that's kind of like how it started working. But I think we know all the same people. We've been circling each other for a long time, and it just really was a matter of the timing working out. And I think once we started working together, there was an immediate chemistry that it became very easy to create with Dove. And my theory is that because with everybody else, like, Zill is in Philadelphia, Griff was in Chicago, people I was working with were all over the country. There was never like an opportunity to collaborate in person.
Yeah.
And I think there's a very big difference in the creative energy when you're collaborating in person versus when you're collaborating in separate states.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I think that really helped with the sort of natural ease that we have with one another.
That's crazy. So Brancaccios, you met him, and then he brought you over. Did he bring you over with Darko?
Yeah, it was the day that we recorded this.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's crazy. And that's crazy to me too, because I was listening to you in high school, like Hangar 18, like that's just so it's really crazy. And then I wasn't here when Alaska was talking, but not for nothing, my job's easy in terms of creating an album because I made all the beats. I don't have to write all these great lyrics, I'm just there to record and now that we've done it twice, it feels a little too easy. But
Yeah.
that's a credit to Tim, like I don't know, he's the one that's writing all these. I got beats, hundreds, so like whatever. You just got to go through them and pick them, and then the hard work comes with the lyric writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think part of the process is like whenever I hear like either if I'm reading something, listening to a podcast, watching TV, watching a movie, if I hear a line in a movie
Mhm.
that strikes me, I always write it down. And those end up becoming songs. Like
Nice.
they end up
Oh.
becoming song titles. And then the concepts come from that idea, like of just having like this list of phrases that mean something to me at that point, and I just sort of build from there.
That's really cool, the phrases part, because I actually the last interview I did was with Seafood Sam, and he was saying how when he was collaborating with the main producer for the record, when they were thinking about the songs and kind of like the topics, they would just write down like I think he said like just like writing down like groan would be like, oh, that's the vibe he's going for. He just writes groan, and the title would come at the end, but that just led them. And like, okay, so I'm curious. So you met each other when it really came down to deciding to collaborate from a musical perspective. Like, what did you see in one another that felt like this could be a good fit?
I,
Hmm.
I just appreciated Dove's beats. I always thought he was a real dope beat maker. Um, and I think that one of the things I look for when I'm looking for beat makers is sort of sounds and like vibes that are out of the norm of what MCs usually pick. And I think Dove is like an expert in that. At
Mhm.
least the stuff he sends me, I'm like, I don't see any other MC picking beats like this. So I always try to like whenever somebody sends me a pack, I try to grab the weirdest shit. And when Dove sends me a pack, there's like 9 of the weirdest shits. So it's like I just
Yeah, I think yeah, I think I make so much stuff and there's definitely a certain genre within my stuff that can lean a little more. It's a little faster, but not as fast as I remember Alaska rapping on like Hangar 18 shit, but still a little faster than if I send it to somebody else, that a little more electronic, but the organic electronic stuff that's like it's still dirty sounding and like move a lot of movement. I don't even know how to articulate it really, but I just think if I make 100 beats, there's always going to be these 20 beats that are like geared in that way. That's like, oh, this is perfect for my style, and just got lucky, like to be able to have that synergy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
this
I get beats from like a lot of different producers and I'm like, I really want to work on them. But like when I sit, like it doesn't pull anything out of me off. Like a lot of, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But whenever I get beats from Dove, it's just like I'm immediately like verses come into my head and lyrics come into my head. And I don't know why that is with his beats, but it's like it's just
But
the way
that's
it
just
works.
how it works. I feel like that's how it works no matter what. When I talk to rappers, it's like, yeah, I know if I'm going to use a beat within the first few seconds or not.
Yeah.
hmm
Regardless of who I'm talking to, any rapper or a lot of the rappers that I've talked about, there's just something about like, yeah, I guess whatever that type of vibe that I get on, they're going to hit Alaska's ears and he's going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to start jotting stuff down. It's kind of an instantaneous thing from what I can gather.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like that. I've heard that similar kind of thought throughout all of the artists that I've spoken to so far. The I like the way you said the organic part because I do find it's hard to articulate the way kind of the synthetic sounds in your music tends to feel, but it doesn't feel like super glitzy and
Hmm.
super like even though it's mixed very cleanly, that's like another trademark of your beats. It doesn't feel like super, yeah, like manicured. There's like a
Hmm.
grit to it, and then especially like we'll talk about it later, like the scratches on this record from Marcus Pin, like that adds that extra kind of rugged feel that makes this really pop, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, and he went through the whole record too, so it was really cohesive. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah, it was super dope.
Yeah. And another aspect of like the creative relationship between you two that I'm curious about is a lot in the lyrics and the just the ethos of these two past records, not just the recent one, is the worldview, the values, the lyrical perspectives. And I'm wondering if how much of that is actually shared between the two of you, or if it's mainly just like Alaska and he's obviously you're the rapper. Because one of the key traits of this record is that there's a lot of biting social commentary, some real perspective and doesn't pull any punches, very honest. And that's something I find very fascinating. So do you feel like you tend to see the world on like a in a similar way, or and do you feel like that's helped the creative process because of it?
Hmm.
I mean, I feel pretty nihilist. Nihilist born out of a dark and positive place, you know? Like y- everything's fucked. You could say it one way, and then you could be like, say it, everything's fucked, so do whatever you want. I don't know. Like, and then we've had conversations. I feel like we align sort of politically, socially, but as
Yeah.
there's, I think pretty. I wouldn't stop a record just because of some weird political thing unless it was like the opposite. Unless
Yeah.
unless he came in and was like,
Let's
yeah,
make a Nazi album.
Roe versus
Yeah.
Wade even more, like get rid of that shit even more. I'd be like, hey man, I deleted that file. I don't know if you can come over anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, we have conversations and there definitely are things like where we disagree, I think, but I think what we tend to like, if we have disagreements, it's more about the approach towards something
Yeah,
versus what
Exactly.
the end result that we hope for is.
not the
And
broad answer, more just
yeah,
like the.
it's like, so I think I come across much darker than I am. Like I think ultimately I'm pretty hopeful. Like I'm not like a catastrophizer. Like I think it also could just be a symptom of age where I'm like, I've seen every single crisis that's supposed to end the world over my lifetime, and none of it ever has. It's just been something that's been designed to give people in power more power. And it's not that I'm saying like, climate change ain't real or this isn't
Yeah.
real, but it's like I kind of also see that it could, it's not going to be the end of things. It might be the end of humans at some point, but it's not the end of the world. Like the universe is going to go on, everything's going to keep going on, and I don't know. Like that's kind of my point of view on it. Like I have no control over
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is. So I'm not going to stress myself over it. I'll have concerns, but I think that's kind of where it is for me. I think it's like having perspective due to age. You kind of see what you can control in your life and what you can't, and you just sort of pay attention to those things.
yeah. And I feel like there's like definitely a personality type, like age. Either you become actively more conservative, or you become actively more like, hey man, give it a shot. Life's crazy. Let's all just try to figure this
Hmm.
out. Like it's all fucked up, but if everything's fucked up, that means nothing's fucked up. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's
No,
just
I actually kind of like that way you're saying it. You could sound the same sentence can sound completely just morose and you're giving up, or hey, shit's fucked up anyway. Like don't put so much pressure on
yeah. At
yourself. Be
least we're
free.
here. At least
Yeah,
we're doing
you know.
this.
That's really cool. And one of the most instructive songs like related to this general sentiment is the second last track, I Don't Care No More.
Yeah.
And you have a particular line that is especially poignant because of what you kind of just said, where you said I used to be an optimist, but lockdown taught us. I felt that was a pretty eye-opening line that I was curious to like understand what was meant by that, and like what do you think necessarily just like
Oh,
kind of
he put you
changed
on
the
the
way you
spot.
perspective?
He put you on the
Um, I
spot
mean, I
with
think
that
that
one.
you kind of, wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
just trying to remember the whole line. Darn tortoise. I think that it just sort of was like nothing is set in stone, really. Like, we have this one view of the way the world is, and then something like COVID happens
Hmm.
and it changes the way that you view everything. It's almost like what we were talking about, how it rewired everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
Like, we don't understand like what that means. We're not going to understand what that means for 10 to 20 years,
Hmm.
despite every single think piece that's talking to us about how COVID has changed us. Because that's just the current, like, trying to have understanding of what's happening, but you really won't have that understanding for years. And I think it's like the same thing like 9/11 taught us,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we all felt like, oh, we're safe over here, like nothing's going to happen. Then that happens. And you see the way that these dynamics shift because of these major world events that you have no control over. So it's, to an extent, it's about like not trying to have control over everything. Like, I think there's this need to, when we get in these like online arguments with people, or like arguments with people who think about things differently than us, like we have this idea that we're going to change the way they think and fix them, or we're going to change this way the world is working and fix it. And it's just not, doesn't happen that way. Like, if anything, you're changing yourself by getting in these fights with people about their perspective on things, as opposed to like necessarily what they're hoping to achieve out of life. Right. Like, I think we could have a lot better conversations if we approached what the expected end goal is versus like what the strategy is. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's where like we sort of vilify people for their strategy,
Mm.
as opposed to vilifying them for what they hope, what their end goal is. Like, if somebody's like, I don't want to have a mask mandate because my business is going to go under.
Hmm.
That doesn't make them a bad person.
Yeah. They don't say I
Whereas
want a
like,
mass mandate because I don't care about COVID or I don't care about
yeah,
people dying.
yeah, I want poor people to die. That's why I don't want a mass mandate. That's a problem. But it's like, I'm just trying to survive. Like,
Hmm.
I don't hate you for that. I might not shop in your store, but I don't hate you for that. Like, it's kind of that sort of a thing. Like, it's, everybody's fucked up, and these big moments kind of shine a light on how everybody's fucked up.
Yeah.
So
I really
that's kind
like
of
the way you
I
said
hope
that.
that
'Cause
was a good
I
answer.
yeah, no, that does. It was a fascinating line because I feel similarly for sure. It was more the optimist part, especially, that I was curious about because, like, I mean, we're obviously different age, different generations. I don't know I guess that's a good point. I don't know how I can't even sum up if it made me, like, quote unquote, more optimistic or less. It definitely changed something inside me, though. I just don't know what that
Yeah,
is. I
and
don't even know how to articulate it yet.
yeah, now imagine if you were like 10 when it happened, or 11 or 12. You know what I mean? That change that you're talking about is the same but bigger. Like kids, like who are, that's why I say it's going to take 10, 20 years. Like young people who went through COVID, we have no idea. Like that's going to change the way they saw the world and see the world. Like
Hmm.
it's totally rewiring effect. I don't know. It's kind of, it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's also like, there are people that missed sort of major learning portions of their lives, right? Like, I
Yes.
work at a university, right? So COVID hit. There's a whole grade level of students that are supposed to start university. They're supposed to be on their own for the very first time in their lives. They lost that for 2 years. They had to like stay at home with their parents. So they missed those 2 years of gaining independence and understanding how to maneuver in the world. So when they come out 2 years later and they're 21 or 22, they're still thinking like 17 and 18-year olds.
Yeah.
So like there's that delay as well. Like, all these things are still out there. Like, the people who lost family members and couldn't be there for them because they couldn't visit the hospital or visit the old age home. Like, how does that impact you? How does that grief and that sort of feeling that you might be like abandoning or letting down the people that you love,
Hmm.
like, how does that impact you mentally and psychologically? There's just like all this crazy shit that's like, and I think that's kind of the thing that you gain with age. Like, you're gaining that now. Like, you're saying you're younger than us, but
Hmm.
having these things like 10 years from now, the next thing happens, there's going to be like, your kids are going to be freaked. Jesus, sorry, my dog's losing his mind.
Can't even
I
hear
don't
him.
know if you hear that, but
No.
okay. So, like, you're going to look back and your kids are going to be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. You're like, nah, we've dealt with this before. We'll be fine. It's
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
really strange. It's really strange. And then I think there's positive aspects to it too. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows what kind of uh, group of young people or people who do something 5 years from now or 10 years from now and you go, why did you do that? And they go, because of COVID. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit. I didn't even
Hmm.
think that. They do a positive thing and you're like, yeah, well, remember COVID? And you're like, whoa, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah. And I think like for me it's definitely resiliency because even like in like even just a few years removed, I can't even fathom that I dealt with that shit.
Yeah.
I was like
it
I
feels
would
very
I had the same thought you had. I was 25 when this started. So I was like thank God I wasn't in university still. That would have
Yeah.
been so I would have been so sad. I've been like, "Oh, I have no social life. All the
right.
fun I wanted to have like it's gone. Traveling after like gone." So yeah, and I mean like extending past that that record specifically in this thought like what would you say was the like overarching sentiment you were trying to convey with this album? Because this is just one of the songs. There's a lot of a lot of stuff about maturing, a lot of stuff with age, a lot of stuff with other kind of like things you see, societal trends. Like what was that main sentiment you were trying to get across with this?
I mean, I think a lot of the stuff I'm writing now is like dealing with getting old. Like, you get to a certain age, like I'm in my 50s now. So you start seeing like people passing away, like, a lot more as you get to this age. And it still feels really young, but then you're also looking at like some musician died the other day and he was like 75. And I was like, Jesus, that's like not that far away. Like
Mm,
when you really start thinking about it. So you started like contemplating your own more mortality and just like what that means. Like I think it's there hasn't been a lot of rap records about dealing with getting old because rap isn't that old. So I think I kind of wanted to like figure out how to make rap music for older people. So I think a lot of this stuff is that like I think there's nothing to me that's more distasteful than like older people trying to cater to like 16-year-olds. And I never wanted to be that dude. I would rather stop rapping than be that dude.
No, that's great. That's great. It is super uncomfortable because it's
Yeah.
super transparent as hell.
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
so
I like that because the you're right. It's such a young genre still, and the most of the examples people are familiar with like older rappers still making rap music. They're the most richest people in the world.
yeah.
So you get like the generational wealth mimosa rap stuff,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly. It's
different.
401k rap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you did a really interesting job because I found so every single song there's something in there that as someone a little younger, but not like necessarily crazy younger, I find myself thinking about it even differently. I feel like maybe if I was 20, 21 when I heard this album, I wouldn't fully understand it. Like even like I might be getting the song titles mixed up, but Wild for the Night, is that the
Yeah.
one where you're talking about like kind of just like
N-
physical
No,
aging?
that's an ASAP Rocky song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Alaska
my
song is
mistake.
mild for the night.
Mild for the yeah,
Mild
yeah,
for
yeah. Okay, yeah. I knew the play on the words. Yeah, yeah. Yes, not Wild for the Night. Mild for the
yeah,
Night.
mild for the night. Yeah.
That is I feel like I'm starting to like I'm hitting at 29 is like they say
Oh
30. It's
yeah,
like
bro. Oh yeah, bro.
I'm getting like I literally was at an Ethiopian restaurant with my girlfriend yesterday and like I didn't notice the like where I was sitting there was like a big drop off and I kind of just was like walking, we were calling the Uber and I just took a full step not like bracing for the impact. It was a lot like farther than I thought and I was just like oh fuck did I like fuck up my ACL here? Like my mind is like thinking I'm in so much
Yep.
pain and it was fine by the end of it. I was just like I'm feeling all these aches and pains like so much more if I don't stretch.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, it hits so much differently, and I just don't think I would have ever understood that
Yeah.
even a few years
Wait
ago.
till you start going to those restaurants and you're like, I can't hear anything you're saying to me.
The thing I have done, I think as of like 2, 3 years ago, I've been very actively disciplined with like going to all the shows I go to. I've been wearing earplugs, and
Oh yeah.
because the
I wish I did
tinnitus
not
talk
go.
I hear from people that like makes me so scared.
Yeah.
I
It's
You
it
got the
sucks.
eargasms, the eargasm earplugs.
No, I got like just some other one, but they were comparable. It was like 25 bucks, 30 bucks, but they're like
Okay,
the
yeah,
good ones where you can
yeah,
still actually hear like the music
yeah,
playing properly. Yeah.
yeah. Those are great. I've been suggesting those to people. Um, yeah, and then you start to just like have fun doing other things, you're like, I love this show. I can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
Oh
Even even
God,
when even
yeah.
when you're having an
Yes.
incredible time,
Yeah.
it's not a one-to-one. It's not like a thing. You're like, the reason I can't wait to leave is because I don't like this. It's just I like leaving just as much. I like going home just as much. So
Yeah.
you're like, I can't wait.
Oh
And that
yeah.
that starts to creep in where you're just like, oh yeah, you love other.
Shows where you can sit. Yeah, that's
Oh
starting to
yeah,
hit
great.
differently.
Yeah, I'm never going to a show that I have to stand for the whole time again in
Yeah.
my life. Never. Even if it's like in a small club, if there's like a chair somewhere, like a table or a bar, that I could go out and sit at the bar for a few minutes.
I'm
Hmm.
just all about greet. Like I am annoying. Well, now I'm finally like I guess popular enough, but I really try to make sure I have backstage access to most shows I go to because I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to go backstage and sit down in your
Yeah.
green room, or I'm not coming.
Hmm. It's crazy. Uh, so like another kind of focus area a lot in the lyricism here is that generational divide.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess it's something that is just really something that I always think about when I'm listening to this album is about how we view things differently. Because I'm like 29 right now, so I'm like just on the edge of Gen Z.
Mhm.
And like, do you feel going back to that idea of being optimist or being nihilist, like, do you feel there's anything that could maybe shift the trajectory in a more positive way, like some kind of like societal trend starts? Because again, a lot of the commentary here is more pointing towards like how things used to be a certain way, and my generation or the generation like younger than me is kind of screwed.
I think every generation thinks they're screwed. I think that's like a natural state of being in your 20s. You're nobody tells you that being in your 20s sucks. Nobody tells you that. And it sucks for every generation being in your 20s. It's not till you're in your 30s and you're like, okay, I've survived all of this and I'm still here and I'm chilling. And I might not be exactly where I want to be, but I'm still here. I'm still going forward and I'm still learning. Like that's when you really start to get that perspective. But I think like being a teenager, you're just wild, you're indestructible. In your 20s, you're like everything sucks. Like, because you come from living at home, everything's
Hmm.
taken care of for you, and now you're on your own. And it's like, wait, what do you mean I gotta like use my salary to pay for my rent, pay for my food, pay for my
Hmm.
transportation? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, I never had to do that before. And then you start to like it's like you were saying about resilience before. It's like it's just having resilience and like you learn about that. Like it's I think as you get older, like this some of the smartest people in the world are young people, but they don't have wisdom, like the wisdom
Hmm.
that comes with age and understanding things. And I think having those two things together is really important. Like if you only have one or the other, you're still kind of lost.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just a matter of like your perspective shifts as you get older. I don't
Hmm.
think that anything society wise is going to change. I think it's like the way our psychologies are built at those ages that like you're just going to look at the world like we're fucked and you're not. But nobody could tell you that except experience and time, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they could was talking about this last night with a friend. The powers that the wealth hoarding group, uh, whatever that may be, could satiate and change the world for a positive so easily, right? Like the people who
Hmm.
have hoarded all this wealth could do a UBI thing. And I know there's like all this arguments against UBI and for UBI or whatever, but if they just did it and started giving money to people, small amounts for all the people that would waste that money, and that's the argument, there would be ones that wouldn't. And then I feel like that could be. I think one part of your original question is, do you see optimism
Hmm.
or something like that? Is like I kind of do. It's getting so dark that I do feel like they might in it, and this is dark as well. They might have to be like, give them a little bit.
Oh, I totally agree.
Improve
Totally
their lives
agree.
a little bit, at least for the next few years. Do something, like whether UBI or whatever they can do to just sort of satiate people and get them back to like chilling a little more, so that it doesn't boil over. And that's sort of like a dark optimism or a
But
way
I
of
I
getting
share
through.
that because I always feel like with anything in the political realm, it's like my assumption is that everybody's self-interested, and for those people, like you just gotta speak in their language. It's like
Yeah,
it's history has shown us if it gets too bad, even the rich get fucked because that's where the
You
revolts
will,
start.
yeah.
Because you
Real
need us to
violence
buy
does
your
come.
stuff. Like you need us to have some level of living standard. Otherwise, we're not gonna even be able to sustain your wealth, which is
Right.
again dark, but it's true. Like it's
Well, violence is not an unprecedented thing. That there's a
yeah,
lot of precedents for that. I don't
yeah.
know if the scale of like North America could handle that. I don't know if that will ever happen, but like whatever. I lost the
No,
track a
that
little bit here.
it's all good. It's all good. So like going back to the first collaborative album, The Structural Dynamics of Flow, not only was it a very good album, but I've mentioned this to you, Dove, obviously offline, but you were really pulling for people to watch The Patriot.
Oh,
And obviously we know that was like that's the a book mentioned in that show like was an inspiration for the title. And I have to give you guys just a pat on the back first of all, because that show is like one of the best things I've ever
yeah.
watched.
Oh,
So
Like
good.
so good, and it's again for people who haven't heard it, The Patriot sounds like a certain way. It's a certain type of show. It is not what you expect. It is like the most like unique show I've ever seen.
it's mind blowing how good that show is. It has a
It's
100% hit rate. You will not suggest that to someone. You will not hear someone come back to you and be like, "That show sucked." Be like, "What? We didn't watch the same show." Like it sucks you in no matter who you are. It's
mhm,
so good.
And I had the same thought you did. That's why I didn't watch it at first. I was like,
yeah.
oh, this is gonna be stupid. But then
Hmm.
thanks
It,
to Dove's
could it be
insistence, I was
that
like, this is
simple?
great.
Is that why it didn't
It
go?
is.
Is that
It's 100%
you
why.
you think it's that why? That's why you
Yeah.
can't call a show Patriot.
Because of
Hmm.
like the sort of weird connotations of that word now, which is
Oh, but
odd. Like that word alone is like this sort of like line of
okay.
demarcation.
Here's the thing. I have one bad thing to say about that show, and I think it's pretty obvious. That is not a good title.
No, it's a
That
terrible
is the
title.
least creative thing, and I've never even really thought about it till now. Like even though I've thought about that's people
Yeah.
like, but like, yeah, what a bad title. That's kind of shocking.
But I
With
think
every
it
other
was
thing being perfect, that title doesn't even make
I
doesn't even
can't
make
I get
sense.
what they're going for though. It's I think it's just so ironically dumb. Like it's just like
Yeah,
the
it's
Patriot do this for because the whole trend is like he's going through this hell and the only thing they say is like, man, the country needs it. Like it was never
yeah,
just
they
some
didn't lean on it
bullshit.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think marketing wise it probably wasn't wise because I mean the Patriot sounds like 17 other shows
It's
that are on
also
like
just Patriot.
Fox.
It's not even the Patriot. I think it's just Patriot.
Oh, I thought it was the Patriot, but either
Nah,
way,
no way.
I
yeah.
think
No,
that's the Mel Gibson movie. The
the
Patriot.
Patriot is the
Oh,
Patriot.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm glad you watched it, dude. Yeah, I'm
I got
always
my
glad when
parents to
someone
watch it
watches.
when I was like over for Christmas
Yep.
back home. I think we binged the whole thing or got
Yeah, they were
close to it.
cracking up. They were cracking
Yeah.
up, I'm sure.
But yeah, you were talking about Alaska earlier about how like you have a phrase that you can be like even seen on a show and it like strikes you, becomes like a song title or whatever. Another example of a very kind of intriguing title with this record, Reverberations of a Dead Man's Ego. What was the genesis of that one?
That was in the show Foundation.
Hmm,
So there's a line like I don't know if you've seen Foundation or
I
read the
haven't.
book. So it's basically like there's this line of like cosmic kings, and they're basically like clones of each other, right? So the first person cloned it once he got to a certain age is like the old man version, who's like the wisdom, the person that's like in their 30s or 40s, who's like the strength, and then the young kid version, who's like the one that's learning from both of them. And they just keep like they have this genetic line that's all these clones. And as people are starting to uprise, like one of the leaders from another world is like, you're not a human, you're a reverberation of a dead man's ego.
Wow,
Which is
line.
I just thought it was a crazy solid line and like the meanings of it, like, you know, everything that we kind of do is leading towards that. Like all the like sort of hopes that we have, and like even like music itself ultimately is like the reverberation of a dead man's ego at some point. You're you're hoping to put this thing out there that outlasts you.
Wow, that is true.
Solid.
Yeah. And it really fits in with all of the themes of the record. And another thing I like really like about this album, and I feel like it's something that I've noticed with a lot of rapper producer duos. I've really noticed with rap at least that the second album I feel tends to be just an improvement for a lot of reasons. And I feel like this album, I really like the first, but this one I think it's a step up in every way. Beats, the rhymes, and it just feels like there's a added level of chemistry. And like there's examples I can think of: Run the Jewels, Outcast. I'm black. Pete Rock, CL Smooth. I
Yeah,
definitely like their second one more, but maybe that's hot take. I don't know.
yeah,
But what did
I
you
get into
feel
this argument with rap or with mutual people we know, Billy Woods and stuff. I think they're equal. I tend to notice that
with the Pete
rappers are
Rock,
like,
CL Smooth?
no. Rappers that I work with are always like my newest album is my best album. And I cannot change their minds, and I don't think I should. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with them, but as a producer, I'm always just like, no, both these are so good. But it's a even playing field, and I always am in this argument with artists that I collaborate with a lot, and I'm wondering, Alaska, like, do you think this is better than
yeah,
Dynamics? You
yeah.
do? How? Like, what do you mean by better? What does that mean to these rappers?
I think it's just like you have to have that mindset when you're in it,
I guess.
so but I just think it's not like I'm not saying that I think the other is like suddenly
I
bad.
know you're not,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
I I don't know. It's like I kind of have that mindset. Like the newest one I'm working on is always the best one. And I don't I think because like ours is like a written narrative on our lives. So you're kind of like
yeah,
I'm one of those
that
people that's
actually
like, I
resonates.
think
Yeah.
it's sad if you're looking back and you're like, the thing I did 10 years ago, like that was the best time of my life 10
Yeah,
years
you're
ago.
talking about lyric writing too. You're talking
So
about like
yeah, there's nothing worse than somebody that like peaked in high school. You don't want to
Yeah.
be like even musically. Like so anything that you've done in the past, it's good, but it's not going to be as good. And even if that's objectively false, I think the mindset you have to
yeah,
have
yeah, you have to have it. Yeah, yeah.
is,
I think
you
it's
have to
also
look at
like I would imagine whatever you're writing now in 2024 versus what you wrote in 2015, you're gonna feel it'll resonate what you're writing right now more with you
yeah,
as the person who wrote it because it's more close to what you actually
Yeah,
feel.
yeah.
So
yeah,
it'll feel like, I don't know, more powerful, I imagine. No, that's really cool. Yeah, you're definitely right, Dove, though. That's every single rapper says the same thing.
It's
I
just
don't
different
think.
from a person who does not write lyrics.
Hmm.
To me, and the thing is, I feel the same way about the lyrics too. Like, I'm such a fan of these artists that I work with. I'm like, every one of like all these are so good, even the old shit. But I am able to intellectualize it and understand it. It just drives me
yeah.
nuts, and I'm always.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Cryptic at the release party, and we were talking about like old Adams Family stuff,
And
and
you
it was
probably
like,
don't like it.
no, well, actually, the opposite. Like, but there was a period where like we would go back. I would like be like, oh my god, that's so like cringy and hard to listen to. And now I listen to it, I'm like, oh, like we were better
You're
than I thought we
spitting.
were.
You're
We
Hmm.
spitting.
weren't great, but we were better than I thought we were. And there's like something about the energy there that I really appreciate. Like there was like a freedom and like trying to push some sort of envelope. And I think like there's when you're like getting away from that, you kind of look back and you're like, oh, I'm not as good as I should have been.
Mm.
And it's that sort of thing. And you need like again, time and perspective. You need that to look back and see like how things actually were to like have a like a good feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the way I see it when I think this one is an improvement, it's I don't think it's really in a vacuum with like, oh, the rhymes are better, the beats are better. I think it's more about like I think there was a better fit
Yeah.
and better like decision. I think it's about decision making. Like the thing I
Mhm.
see for this record specifically is that I think there's more variety in the production that I think because I think the last one was more dominated by like that spacey atmosphere kind of feel that like Dove, a lot of your records have felt like,
Mhm.
and that one was a good fit. But I think this one had more kind of switch ups, like Bad Seeds. I'm thinking of. I also think the drums and like the rhythms. I felt like this had more energy, and
Mhm.
I think it kind of accentuated the versatility from the rhymes and like the flows because you can do that fast flow like so well and I think it came across more on this record. Like that's kind of I guess how I would feel it. But I guess Dove for you, like do you feel like there was a evolution in the sound here that you think was a good choice on the second one?
Yes, but it's more of a technical thing because the music gets and it's minuscule, right? It's very minuscule. But it gets like technically sonically better every few months just because everyone is getting better at what they do. Me, the rapper, when I mix, the decision making, like you're saying. So it better be better, but I,
Mhm.
but only from like a mathematical standpoint. You know what I mean? I'm looking at
Mm-hmm.
it at like a so it's always like it's a cop out, but I'm not being a cop out guy. I'm just being hyper honest. Like I can't really tell you about better stuff. To
Mm.
me, it's all like it's all right here. It's not quite as chronological. It's not quite as like or linear, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um I don't know. I don't know. The feature. Okay, so I think
Features are
that
a difference.
so
A
when you
pretty.
add features, that's
Yeah.
going to change even Alaska's mindset too. He's
Yeah.
going to now have different flows, different like the stuff that you were just describing, saying maybe a little more dynamic with the drum. I think it was intentional because he's thinking that as well, which the first one did not have that. So it is inherently also a totally different type of record, like so. Yeah, I don't know. It's
No,
interesting.
I mean, to your point about the like the tempos and stuff, that was a conscious decision when I was
Okay.
picking
Okay.
for the record because it was one of the things like, and I love the last record, like I love it. I'm
Yeah.
not like trying to crap on it, but it was one thing that I noticed. I was like, it really is a tempo through the whole thing. Like, there's not a lot of changes, and I wanted to like sort of do that and have that where it was like a little more dynamic. Like one of the problems with Hangar 18 was everything was fast.
Mm.
And I think that was like something that I used to get on my nerves. Like everything is too fast. There's no breaks.
Mm.
So I kind of like sitting with structural dynamics for a while. It's like everything is kind of like deliberate and slow, and there's no breaks on that. So I wanted to have like something where there was a lot of movement. I think that's where the guests come in, and it's really where Marcus comes in too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that Marcus adds is movement, like to the track that wasn't there for myself or Dove, that creates just more textures and more movement through the process. I've always wanted to like with Hangar 18 on our first record, we had DJ Wiz. We gave him all the stems, everything, and he created a mixtape version of it where it was
Oh, I
like,
remember that.
yeah, where it was like, he was just cutting in like different stuff into it, dropping different beats. And I was like, I want to make this at some point, like a record where it's like we
See,
have everything, we give it to a DJ, and then they chop it up and just make it into like a 30-minute party. And
Mm.
while we obviously couldn't do that, but we could have somebody that could sort of tie everything together through the DJ role. And I
yeah,
thought that
I
really helped a lot, I think.
this is unlocking like because I do all this like post-production stuff, right? But that is for like lack of a better term, I guess, cinematic effect.
Mm.
Whereas with someone like Marcus coming in and cutting it up and shit, that's energy and movement,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it like flow like it helps it. Yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy. That's cool.
I got a similar feel to uh what D Styles did with a lot of the records off the Shrapnel record that
Mhm.
this earlier this year. I got a similar feeling where that same kind of element, I felt like, wow, this is just keeps moving in different directions and
Yeah.
it's fascinating. I get that same kind of idea. And then even with the technical part you mentioned of like I do hear that though for sure. Like
Yeah.
I think my favorite beat is probably the first track, Key to Life.
Mhm.
Like when it gets like I don't know if it's the bridge. I'm so bad with these terms. The hook or the bridge, where like
Yeah.
that like the bass kind of like cavernous bass thing comes with like the synths. Like that is so it just feels so fucking nice. Like I
Yeah.
listened to this album on my good speakers for the first time yesterday, and I was just really blown away by how nice that comes across. It's just like it's just crazy.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
I'm always blown away, like whenever I press play on it, and like the same thing, like the way it's just how clean it sounds.
Hmm.
Wow, I've never had an album that I've been on that sounded this like crisp and good. Like I'm always shocked to like hear my voice then come in. I'm like, wow, I get to be the person that raps on this. This is dope.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
interesting. It's funny too because sometimes it's dependent upon the sample source. I feel like Key to Life doesn't have any samples. I might have like that synth might all be like original. I can't remember right now, but if I'm sampling something, I'm never going to be able to get it that clean. Like even on some of the songs probably don't sound quite as clean, right? Because the sample's so dirty or whatever. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the little marked difference between dynamics and this
Mhm.
of like whether it's actually literally louder or not, it sounds like louder and clearer
Yeah.
or something, like
Mhm.
And we experimented a little bit more, I think, too, on this one. Like, you know, like when we were a lot of the stuff that we like sort of did final touches on structural, it was like, let's drop a little sample in here to like add a little layer. But like with like the choruses, there's a lot of movement, like the way that Dove mixed the vocals, where it's like, you know, there's overdubs that will travel from one ear to the
Mhm.
next back again with like different effects on them and different layers. We did a lot of layering with the vocals, which we didn't do last time, which I think also added to it.
Yeah.
There was like I think a sort of level of comfort that we had with one another that we were like, yeah, let's just try some shit and see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Who cares?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So let's get into favorite songs. What's your choice for that? Favorite
Hmm.
song on this record?
It changes all the time for me. I really like Bad Seed because
That's yeah.
I
Yeah.
like the initial beat and I like the change that comes into it at the end. Which that was a separate song and it just didn't work as a separate song, but those like parts of it worked. Like when it was a longer song, it didn't feel good. But when
Hmm.
it's truncated into like a change off of like something so different from what that beat was, I really like that. I love Go Beckley Tepe. That's having Castro and John Robinson on a track together. And something about the beat feels like I don't know if Dove feels this way, but every time I hear it, it feels like if you're watching a very special episode of like a sitcom in the 90s, like
yeah,
you're watching a very special episode of
or
Family
a talk
Matters.
show or game
Yeah,
show
and
or
they're like, we'll
something.
be
Yeah.
right back after this message. It's like, brr, brr, the horn. I don't
Yeah.
know, something about that always moves me. But I think it really just depends on the day. I love Statues Crumble because I've wanted to use that sample for so fucking long.
My favorite track is probably is Key to Life, but if I'll pick a different one, I'll say it's Bad Seeds too. Like I really love that the horns or the brass, whatever,
Yeah.
on the first beat. Like that's also one of my favorite beats here. And yeah, the contrast is just killer.
Yeah.
It's just killer. Like I love how that jumps out of nowhere and it's just a complete banger. Like I love that shit.
My whole career I've wanted to do a song where there's a beat change in it, and I've never
Hmm.
had one
Really?
like
Oh.
so drastic.
Yeah.
Like it's really refreshing. With that song, it's like there's a line in there that I really sort of enjoy because I don't think I've written anything like it before, but it's like talking about like running into my old friend at the bar.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, I felt like something like Ghostface would write. So I
Nice.
felt
Mm.
that.
Narrowmancer is my favorite song,
Mhm.
I think. And that's side B, track one.
Yeah.
Um, and then probably Vulture Stones too.
Oh, so it's
Everyone
fun.
just
Mm.
goes so crazy on that, and that's such a very rap, like I don't know, beat, and it kind of stands out a little bit. I don't know. I really like both those songs a lot.
Nice, nice.
And Reverberations, the last track is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so anything else kind of like projects, shows, merch that you want to call out that people should think about, look out for?
No, we got the vinyl on Fused Arrow Bandcamp, and we might repress Dynamics, maybe
Oh,
sometime in
sick.
the future.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. And
that's about it I can think of.
we're working on more music.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this is not the end of the
No.
duo.
No, no.
Mm.
Yeah. No.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's it's a nice duo to be a part of.
Yeah.
So
We're
yeah.
already making
Absolutely.
more dope shit.
Yeah. Other than that, you can find all of our stuff at Bandcamp. Um and yeah, Terrifier 3 is coming out, so everybody go see that. I mean,
Nice.
I assume when you said promote other stuff, maybe get that as well.
Oh, but no, Dan, thank you so much for the time. The record's
Um,
great. Very happy to hear there's more coming because I do think that there's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of like I know Dove a little more like personally too. So like especially some of the thoughts I had about the lyrics, I could already know that there was some kind of connection, but it's interesting hearing it kind of fleshed out more in terms of how you guys see the world and um
Well, and it's
yeah,
funny, there's a 30 years on this call. You're 30. I'm 40. He's 50. That's crazy.
I'm 29 though, to be clear. Don't.
Yeah,
All right,
don't
well,
age him.
I'm 41 to be clear.
Yeah. 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 Well, I just rounding up
3
right now still
decades is
feels
all
a
I'm
bit
saying.
hard. It hurts a bit. I don't know what I'm doing my 30th. That's
Fine, bro.
yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for the time. Everybody go check out this album. It's great. And yeah, and check out the Call Out Culture pod
Yeah.
too, for
Yeah,
sure.
we still have to do the crossover episode at some point.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do that for so long. I don't know why it hasn't
I'll
happened yet.
suggest that, and please invite me on, but do a bracket episode with that. Those are the best episodes.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
my
those are
favorite.
fun.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
so
we have a yacht rock one coming soon, so it's gonna be fun. Yeah,
Oh,
if there's
that's
like
sick.
a non-hip hop genre that you're interested in, let me know. We could work a bracket out around it.
I'm trying to think the best, like my strongest non-hip hop
No. There's
thoughts.
no skills involved in this.
No, but just like my like in terms of what I like the
Familiarity.
most, probably R&B,
Okay, well, we're talking about doing like we have
R&B soul maybe. I think
yeah,
so.
doing like a 90s, early 2000s R&B.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
So
there's
yeah, we'll have you
D'Angelo
for
in
that
there,
one.
and he's like my favorite ever. So
Yeah, we'll get you in there for a 68 team tournament for that one.
They're so
love it.
chaotic. It's really fun.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, man.
All right, man.
Everybody enjoy the rest of your days, and yeah, stay safe out there.
Yeah,
All right, man.
thank you,
Take care.
man.
Thank you again. And
Are you gonna stop recording, or are you gonna
I'll
jump
stop recording.
I know you gotta
right.
run probably.
So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip-hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.